1984 is a dystopian novel written by George Orwell. Published in 1949, the novel itself warns the readers about the dangers of a totalitarian government. During this time, the Cold War became the new looming terror that threatened civilization. Tensions grew between the United States and its allies versus the Stalinistic Soviet Union and its influenced territories. Orwell saw the growing threat of the ideologies of Stalinism as it encompassed totalitarianism. With this, 1984 portrays the theme of psychological manipulation through language and mind control, as well as the theme of totalitarianism. Psychological manipulation in the expression of language and mind control is a prevailing theme within Orwell's novel. A core belief that the party holds is that language controls the mind, as language is the foundation of thought. Without language, our thoughts will collapse due to the lack of infrastructure to build off of. With this, the party implemented a new system of language, Newspeak, which is essentially simplified English. When language simplifies, our thoughts become simple as well, and when thoughts simplify, human actions become limited to those simplified thoughts. Without language, intelligence diminishes. With that, manipulation becomes easier. Through the repression of language, the party is able to control the minds of its citizens and is portrayed throughout the novel. Part 1, Chapter 5 is where readers get an in-depth understanding about Newspeak. Syme explains to Winston, and seemingly the reader, the good results Newspeak brings. Syme states to Winston, "It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. Of course, the great wastage is in the verbs and adjectives, but there are hundreds of nouns that can be got rid of as well. It isn't only the synonyms, there are also the antonyms. After all, what justification is there for a word which is simply the opposite of some other word? A word contains its opposite in itself. Of course, we use these forms already, but in the final version of Newspeak, there will be nothing else. In the end, the whole notion of goodness and madness will be covered by only 6 words. In reality, only 1 word. Don't you see the beauty in that, Winston?" Syme explains that Newspeak takes away redundant and unnecessary words. He exclaims the uselessness of antonyms or hyperbolic words, as you can apply prefixes to the original word to convey a different meaning. Of course, this is what the party wants, for people to use Newspeak and think nothing wrong of it. This is how the theme of psychological manipulation is present within this quotation. Word by word, the party is gaining control of the thoughts of the people, restricting diverse vocabulary to a more mundane, more expressionless set of words. If this continues, then soon enough, expression of oneself will be limited to the most basic of words, removing complexity and elaboration. This limits one's ability to rebel. Furthermore, Syme continues to explain more about Newspeak, as well as showing how Newspeak benefits the party. He says, "Don't you see the whole aim of Newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make thought crime literally impossible, because there will be no words in which to express it. Every concept that can ever be needed will be expressed by exactly 1 word, with its meaning rigidly defined, and all its subsidiary meanings rubbed out and forgotten." Like the previous quotation, Syme exclaims that Newspeak limits the range of vocabulary, ultimately limiting expression. He also states that the implementation of Newspeak narrows the range of thought, which, if done correctly, can completely eliminate thought crime. Syme explains that language is mind control, which comes back to the theme of psychological manipulation with the use of language. The party's motives lie not in the conquest of other nations, but in the conquest of the minds of their population. And when the party reaches this, then they will have complete totalitarian control. However, with that said, only the inner and outer party members are the ones who need this kind of control. The proles are left out. In Part 1, Chapter 7, Winston reflects on the current position of the proles. In his diary, he wrote, "Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, and until they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious. The party claimed, of course, to have liberated the Poles from bondage, but simultaneously, true to the principles of doublethink, the party thought that the Poles were natural inferiors who must be kept in subjection, like animals, by the application of a few simple rules. Heavy physical work, the care of home and children, petty quarrels with neighbors, films, football, beer, and above all, gambling, filled up the horizons of their mind. To keep them in control was not difficult. This quotation demonstrates the party's control of the Poles. By preventing any form of education, and by providing the Poles with distractions through gambling and films, the party can easily manipulate the Poles due to their low intelligence. The theme of psychological manipulation is again shown here, because the party purposely excludes the Poles from the indoctrination of the INSOC ideologies. This shows that the party only focuses on those who are intelligent and those who have literature. This further demonstrates the importance of Newspeak, as Newspeak takes away intelligence. It also explains why Newspeak isn't heavily enforced in the Poles community. Their unintelligence and easy to manipulate nature doesn't pose a threat to the party. In Chapter 1 of Goldstein's Manifesto, it provides additional detail regarding the lifestyle that party members have to go through to ensure they won't commit a thought crime. It states the following. The keyword here is black-white. Like many Newspeak words, this word has two mutual contradictory meanings. Applied to an opponent, it means the habit to impotently claiming that black is white, in contradictions of the plain facts. Applied to a party member, willingness to say that black is white when the party discipline demands this. But it means also the ability to believe that black is white. And more, to know that black is white, and to forget that one has ever believed the contrary. This demands a continuous alteration of the past, made possible by the system of thought which really embraces all the rest, and which is known in Newspeak as doublethink. This quotation reintroduces doublethink, a method of thinking to not only believe in the thought, but to also believe a contradicting thought, while simultaneously believing in both the original thought and a contradicting thought to be the absolute truth. The party uses doublethink to control the party members. As doublethink breaks down the barriers of falsehood, nothing can be false if everything is true, even if they disprove one another. This demonstrates the theme of mind control as the party further controls the truth, and by controlling the truth, they control reality. This allows the party to say that they were at war with Eurasia, but immediately switch to East Asia, and have everyone believe that it has always been East Asia. With the power of doublethink, Big Brother, in the form of the party, maintains an omniscient and omnipotent presence, which further puts pressure on the people to mentally surrender themselves to the party. Lastly, we have a quotation from Ampleforth. It reads the following. "I could not help it," he almost added indignantly, raising his face to look at Winston. "It was impossible to change the line. The rhyme was rod. Do you realize that there are only 12 rhymes to rod in the entire language? For days I racked my brain. There was no other rhyme." This quotation further demonstrates the linguistic restrictions the party enforces. Any mention of faith or religion can lead to incarceration. In Oceania, religion is prohibited. Religion demonstrates a form of worship directed to a greater figure than the party itself, which essentially prevents the party from controlling the worshippers. The theme of language and mind control is present here, as the party enforced the restrictions of language. Any word that mentions a greater entity than the party, such as the word God, is strictly prohibited. Therefore, the party will always be the closest thing to divinity. Furthermore, because Ampleforth is a passionate poet, his capture may also symbolize the party's grasp on language and literature. In 1984, totalitarianism is another relevant theme throughout the novel. Not only is it the foundation of Oceania's government, but it shapes the lives of the inhabitants within the continent. A totalitarian regime such as the one in 1984 completely restricts the freedom of the citizens living within, all their actions are monitored closely, and the government is in complete control over their population. One of the most effective methods the party uses to exercise authority is through the control of information and history. The party believes that if they control the present, then they control the past, and if they control the past, they control the future. Therefore, if the party dictates the information regarding the past, they control the events in the future. There are many instances of where the theme of totalitarianism and the control of information and truth of the past events appears in 1984, each one demonstrating the seemingly omnipotent power of the party. Firstly, doublethink. In Part 1, Chapter 3, doublethink was introduced and explained through Winston's thoughts, saying, "And if all others accepted the lie which the party imposed, if all records told the same tale, then the lie passed into history and became the truth. Who controls the past, rang the party slogan, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. And yet the past, though of its nature alterable, has never been altered. Whatever was true now was true from everlasting to everlasting. It was quite simple. All that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. Reality control, they call it. In Newspeak, doublethink." This quotation explains the concept of doublethink. As said before, doublethink is utilized by the party to partially control the thoughts of people. With the partial control of thoughts, the party is free to literally rewrite history towards their bias. The theme of totalitarianism is present here, because doublethink allows the alteration of history and information, which essentially allows the manipulation of reality of the inhabitants of Oceania. Part 1, Chapter 4 is where we get insight on media that the party controls. It states, "As soon as all the corrections which happened to be necessary in any particular number of times and had been assembled and collated, that number would be reprinted, the original copy destroyed, and the corrected copy placed on the files in its stead." This process of continuous alteration was applied not only to newspapers, but to books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, leaflets, films, soundtracks, cartoons, photographies, to every kind of literature or documentation which might conceivably hold any political or ideological significance. All history was a palimpsest, scrapped clean and reinscribed exactly as often as was necessary. In no case would it have been possible, that once the deed was done, to prove that any falsification had taken place. This citation demonstrates the vast stretch of media the party controls and manipulates to control its citizens. From periodicals to soundtracks, the party controls what seems to be everything. With this control, the party has the ability to manipulate the media to its desired output, portraying the theme of totalitarianism. Winston also mentions that it is impossible to prove any falsifications, which amplifies the party's omnipotence. The previous quotations are supported with this quotation from Winston. It states the following, "And so it was with every class of recorded fact, great or small. Everything faded away into a shadow world, in which, finally, even the date of the year had become uncertain." This quotation demonstrates how the destruction of recorded history plays a role in the party's hold for power. The totalitarian theme is present here, as the quotation directly states the lengths the party takes to ensure their control over information. To take away something as concrete such as the date of events shows the party's monopoly over information, even to the point where the inner party themselves forget those details. Similarly to the second quotation, in Part 2, Chapter 5, Winston recalls that every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book has been rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street and building has been renamed, every date has been altered. And that process is continuing day by day, Minute by minute, history has stopped. Nothing exists except the endless present in which the party is always right. I know, of course, that the past is falsified, but it would never be possible for me to prove it, even if I did the falsification myself. After the thing is done, no evidence ever remains. The only evidence is inside my own mind, and I don't know with any certainty that any other human being shares my memories. The totalitarian theme is present here, as Winston reinstates all the types of information that has been replaced by the party. It isn't only the dates and facts that have been altered, but paintings and books have been recreated to fit what the party wants their people to see. This portrays the manipulation of history and information at an extreme level. Every outlet of imagination or inspiration, such as works of art and literature, must be reviewed by the party. And all that doesn't meet with the party's goal for complete control are erased physically and from the people's memories. Winston also mentions that he does not know if anyone else shares his memories, which essentially makes him a minority of one, which begs the question, is he insane for being the only person to believe in something if no evidence provides its existence, nor if any other person shares the same belief? Chapter 6 of Part 3, however, is different from the rest. It states the following. Uncalled, a memory floated into his mind. He saw a candlelit room in a vast white counterpane bed, and himself, a boy of 9 or 10, sitting on the floor shaking a dice box and laughing excitedly. His mother was sitting opposite him and also laughing. He pushed the picture out of his mind. It was a false memory. Here, after all the torment, all the torture, all the reformation Winston went through, the party won over him. Totalitarianism is seen here as our protagonist submitted to the party. The party is able to dictate what Winston believes and what he has to reject. All memories he has of the past are denounced as false memories. For Winston, the party now controls the information of his past. The party has won. To conclude, Orwell's 1984 notes of a truly dystopian future. The themes of language and mind control, as well as totalitarianism, is very well present within his novel. I also learned that the theme of totalitarianism and language and mind control complements one another, creating an excellent narrative in a novel. Each theme that is portrayed within a novel amplifies the dystopian setting, whether it is because it makes an already bleak future even more forlorn, or whether it is because it amplifies the party's seemingly immortal standing. Now, we the readers, fully warned of its dangers, must speak up against an oppressive administration before it is too late.